back to Pepcoding. So the question which we are solving today is called encoding and decoding tiny URL. Basically, you have been given a URL. Okay, this is the long URL, and you have to convert this into a tiny URL. So we've all worked with tiny URL a little bit, where we convert a longer URL which has been given to us and which is difficult to copy and paste everywhere. So we convert it to tiny URL. That's exactly what you have to do in this question. You will be given two functions, encode and decode. What you have to do is that through encode function, you will convert this given code, that is the long URL, into a tiny URL, that is from here you will return a short URL. Okay. After that, this short URL which you've generated has to be converted back to the actual URL. Basically, not converted back, you have to tell us or return the long URL which was corresponding to this short URL. So you will return the long URL from here. Okay. So this is the question which you have to work on. Try it by yourself and then we will discuss on its solution. Okay. Now let's try to think of a solution for this question. See, we have these two functions over here, right? So the first function which we had was encode. So in this function, what you have to do is you have to basically convert this URL, which will be given to you, into such URL. But what the case is, you have already been given this part. You don't have to deal with this part of the URL in your code. Okay. You only have to deal with this. This is your work to do. So you have to create this part, and it can be of any length, but try to do it in such a manner that you generate it of the minimum length possible. Okay, that is what you have to do. So it has to be random, and secondly, you have to make sure that this value is not corresponding to any other long URL. Okay. So basically, you will be given a URL like this, and you have to convert it into something like this, and make sure that you don't give the same value or the same tiny URL to two or more different long URLs. Okay. So from here, you will return a short URL. From here, we will return a short URL. This short URL will be given to the decode function, and you have to return the corresponding long URL from here. Okay. So basically, two things which we have to do have been discussed. I'll just rub this off. Okay. So basically, there are two things which we have to do. First, we have to create a string of n length, a random string. Okay. Second, we have to make sure that this random string is not assigned to any other long URL. Okay. So these two things we have to make sure. First, let's talk about this part. Basically, what is happening is we are doing one-to-one mapping. That is, one short URL can only go to one long URL. So this is the condition, that a long URL cannot be corresponding to two or more short URLs, and a short URL cannot be corresponding to two or more long URLs. Basically, one long URL has to correspond to only one short URL. Okay. So we will work with one-to-one mapping, and since we are working with 1:1 mapping, we can simply use HashMap, and this HashMap will contain two strings. One will be the tiny URL, second one will be the long URL. So when we will work with these two, what we will do, we don't know the length which will be generated for us, right? Why? Because this could even be simple A, B, Z, 4, dollar symbol, whatever. It can be anything, right? It can be of length 1, 2, 3, and it has to be of the shortest length possible, but we don't know what length will be generated. So let's say first I put A over here. Let's say I am talking about this string only. We are working with this string only. So I put A over here. Then I go to the map and check, is such kind of tiny URL already available? So is this already given for any other long URL? If yes, then I will go to the next position and append another random character over here. Let's say I appended 3. Again I'll go and check. Let's say again I found A3 over there. Then I appended Z. Let's say A3Z was not present in the hash map. So what I'll do, I'll simply put this back to the hash map, okay, and and alongside it, corresponding to this short URL which I generated, I will put the original long URL which has been given to me. Okay, so how will we do this? The random characters which we are choosing, how will I do this? In Java, we have a function which is known as mat.random. Okay, now this function, what this function does for us, it generates random values from 0 to 1. So it could be 0.153342, any value, right? So now when we are working with this URL, we do not want decimal values. So what we can do, we can multiply this by 10. If we multiply this by 10, I will have values 0 to 10. This will become 1.5 something something. 1.53342. And corresponding to this integer value, I will obviously, this will be ASCII for some value. Corresponding to this value, I will have a character as well. So I can even multiply with 100. If I multiply this with 100, then this value will become 15.3342 and a value corresponding to 15 will be present for ASCII, right? So there will be a character corresponding to it. So what I need to do is, I don't want the decimal part, right? So to get rid of the decimal part, I will use a function which is known as mat.float. It will get rid of the decimal part and give me the round off of the number. Okay, so now let's try to work with this. Okay, then next thing we are doing is, now we know that we can create an n-length random function. We have to also work with decode, right? So what will we do for decode? We had the hash map with the tiny URL as well as the, I know the spelling of tiny was wrong over here, and over here we have a long URL, right? So to decode, what we will do, we will just go and search for this short URL in the hash map. If it is present in the hash map, then there must be a long URL corresponding to it. This long URL we will simply return. So both the functions will be done. Now let's try to code this. I'll make this full screen. Alright. Okay. So now the first thing we will do is, we will create a hash map, and since this hash map has to be used in both the functions, so I'll create one outside. Okay, so hash map 2 times, string as well as string on both the places, and let's name it map. So I'll initialize this here only, new hash map. Okay, now over here when we are working, I know that first thing I need to do is, I need to get a string builder. Okay, one thing which we had to discuss about was that over here I am going to use a string builder instead of string. Why? Because it will work in O of 1 type instead of O of n, which the normal string takes. Okay, so I will take a string builder over here. String builder is equal to new builder. Okay, then the first value I have to append, the first position value I have to append. So sp dot append, and now from the randomized function I will get a character value, or I will get an integer value which I have to convert to character value. So I will convert it into character value. Then I will call the mat.flow function. Why did we use the mat.flow function? To get rid of the decimal, value, to round off the number, right? And then after that I will use the mat.random function. Okay, and multiply this by 100. After that, I have to work in the map. What will be the condition to work in the map? Basically, if I put A over here, I will go and put the next, I will go and put the next value at the next position only in the condition if A, that is this string, this much string which I have already created, already exists in the map, right? This means that this much string has already been assigned to another long URL. Only then I will put another string to the next position, right? So the condition for working in the map would be that while map contains the key, so map dot contains key sb dot toString, because the SB which we are working with is the string builder, so I have to first convert it into string. Okay, so if while it contains the string which is being created, I will keep on appending random values to my string builder. After that, when I will exit this, I will put this to the map. So map dot put sv dot toString along with the long URL, right? And I will simply return the string which I have gotten. Okay. After that, for the decode function, what did we return? We will go to the map and we will get the value which is corresponding to the short URL which we've created, right? And this will give me the decoded URL, that is the long URL which was originally present. So now let's try to run this. Okay, is not able to find out long URL. Why? Oh, I put dot instead of comma. Alright. Okay, so the input which I gave was this same. Okay, the same URL which is over here. So in the output, we got the same thing. That is what my objective was. So I'm getting the correct output. And so we are done with the question. So thank you for watching the video. And I will not be able to run it for multiple test cases because we're still working on the test cases view. But since we've run the code, you know it will be working anyways. So thank you for watching the video. Have faith that the code will run for all the test cases. Okay. Soon you will be able to submit it on the portal and we will see each other in the next video. Till then, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.